Good evening. Sorry. Good evening. My name is Rebecca Hetherington. I'm the mom of 3 boys in the Rochester City School District. I'm part of the leadership team of the Parent Leadership Advisory Council, and I'm newly graduated from PLTI of cohort 10. And I'm here to give the plaque report for the month of May. Parents are partners. The parents of the students of the Rochester City School District belong at every decision-making table because parents are the only decision makers in the city that matter when it comes to where our children get their education in or out of the district. Shirley Chisholm once said, "If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair." We know that the parents of RCSD are welcomed at plenty of tables across the city, and yet with the institution that shares our precious children, we have to bring a folding chair because we have not been invited. You continue to say we are welcomed, and yet we are not invited. We get last-minute invitations to participate in one-way presentations of decisions already made, if the invitations arrive at all. As the month of May comes to a close and June begins and graduation celebrations take hold, an opportunity arises. The closing of the school year presents a unique opportunity to rethink the way the district approaches speaking to and about students and parents. The lagging indicators of waiting for information to get to you should become a thing of the past. The opportunities exist to create structures within the district of consistent, meaningful interactions with students and parents to truly partner on decision-making. Student and parent voices should be at the forefront of every decision-making process. Our partnership will lead the way to a stronger RCSD. Every interaction with students and families is meaningful to everyone involved. It lays the groundwork for every interaction to follow. Approach each family, student, and caregiver with the expectation that they want what is best for their student and the district as a whole. This has been a challenging year to be a part of the leadership team of the Parent Leadership Advisory Council. As the board was made aware through a memo on May 23rd, we have reached out to you in the administration and requested a meeting to collectively review the plaque general membership meeting that took place on May 17th. The plaque team is incredibly proud of this event. Plaque members, community organizations, RCSD, city and county departments came and supported families with over 200 guests attending on a chilly Wednesday night. Families received tons of information, food, and fun, and no one knew that anything went awry. Because that is the power of the Parent Leadership Advisory Council and for your parents collectively in this city. This meeting will review the processes and procedures by which decisions are made and communicated and what those norms of collaboration will look like moving forward to best support plaque and the thousands of parents we could have at these events, given the proper support and collaboration. It is greatly appreciated that the superintendent responded so quickly, and we look forward to that meeting. We do not take this work lightly and welcome you to join us in building consistent structures to bring parent and student voice to the front of the decisions this district makes going forward. Thank you for the time and the opportunity to share.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next advisory council report is the Bilingual Education Council.
Buenas noches, soy Divette García, presidenta del Concilio de Educación Bilingüe, que estoy aquí con el resto de los funcionarios del concilio.
Good evening, buenas noches. I am Divette Garcia, now the president of the Bilingual Education Council. I am here with the rest of the BEC officers.
El Concilio de Educación Bilingüe está formado por padres bilingües, organizaciones comunitarias y educadores representando y abogando por los derechos educativos a una educación bilingüe de calidad para nuestros estudiantes en el distrito.
The Bilingual Education Council is made up of bilingual parents, community-based organizations, and educators representing and advocating for the educational rights to a quality bilingual education for our students in the district.
Hemos estado distribuyendo el calendario de las reuniones del concilio y hablando con los padres en las escuelas en varios eventos en la tarde y fin de semana. Vimos nuestros esfuerzos de reclutamiento en nuestra reunión del concilio el martes 9 de mayo en el Centro Trenton y Pamela Jackson Rec, donde más de 22 padres asistieron y participaron activamente. Tuvimos presentaciones del sello de bilingüismo por María Petrella y la presentación de datos de graduación de ELLS por Analí Cruz Pomani. Durante nuestro evento tuvimos una rifa de bicicletas para los estudiantes y dimos un reconocimiento por el Día de las Madres. Las elecciones también se llevaron a cabo en nuestra reunión de mayo y estamos orgullosos de anunciar que nuestros nuevos oficiales para los próximos años para presidenta continuó yo, Divet García, y el vicepresidente Pablo Sierra.
We have been distributing the BEC calendar of meetings and talking with parents at schools at several evening and weekend events. We saw our recruitment efforts at our last BEC meeting held on Tuesday, May 9th at the Trenton and Pamela Jackson Rec Center with over 22 parents attending and were actively engaged. We reviewed presentations of Seal of Biliteracy by Maria Petrella and presentation on graduation data of ELLs by Annalie Cruz Fomani. During our event, we had a bike giveaway to students and gave a token of recognition for Mother's Day. Elections were also held at our May meeting, and we are proud to announce that our new officers for the next 2 years, President Deveth Garcia and Vice President Pablo Sierra.
El Concilio de Educación Bilingüe participó en las entrevistas de directores de las escuelas. Queremos agradecer al Dr. Christopher Miller, jefe de Capital Humano, por incluir en el concilio, pero hemos solicitado que la administración nos informe con mayor anticipación. Las entrevistas requieren la participación durante un periodo de 3 horas y el aviso anticipado apoyará la participación del concilio y los representantes de los padres de las escuelas.
The BEC participated in the school principal interviews. We want to thank Dr. Christopher Miller, Chief of Human Capital, for including the council, but we have requested that the administration let us know more in advance. Interviews require participation over a 3-hour period, and advance notice will support the engagement of the council officer and parent representatives from the schools.
Reclutamiento de representación de los padres para este próximo año escolar comenzará y el apoyo de los directores es apreciada. La próxima junta con los estudiantes representantes será vía Zoom el lunes 22 de mayo a las 4:30. Shalim Natter de Ibero se unirá al concilio. Los representantes estudiantiles tratarán de asistir a nuestra última reunión del concilio el 13 de junio para que podamos presentarles durante la reunión. Esto asegurará que tengamos representantes estudiantiles al inicio del año escolar 2023-2024.
Recruitment for next year's school BEC parent representation will begin, and support from principals is appreciated. The next student rep is a Zoom meeting on Monday, May 22nd at 4:30 p.m. Shailem Nader from Ibero will join the council. Student reps will try to attend our last BEC meeting on June 13th so we can introduce them during the meeting. This will ensure that we have student representatives at the start of the 23-24 school year.
El concilio continúa trabajando con otros grupos de padres y asistimos a actividades de padres en las escuelas 12, 35 y 50. Hemos asistido a eventos de PLAG y CPAC. También participé en el Comité de Finanzas esta semana. Seguimos profundamente preocupados por el hecho de que estamos ubicando a maestros bilingües en escuelas que no son bilingües. Mientras que el Concilio de Educación Bilingüe está de acuerdo en que todas las escuelas deben tener personal bilingüe, se debe dar prioridad a los maestros bilingües para ser colocados en programas bilingües. En esta área de escasez de personal y es citado en el decreto de consentimiento y el plan de acción correctivo ELL. También estamos preguntando acerca de cómo el distrito está planeando para la afluencia de estudiantes inmigrantes procedentes de Venezuela, Honduras, El Salvador y los países de América Latina y de habla española. ¿Cuáles son las posiciones de contingencia que se han asignado en el presupuesto para la afluencia de estudiantes ELL de habla española? Respetuosamente pedimos que la Administración presente una respuesta por escrito para ambas preocupaciones: la colocación de maestros y las posiciones de contingencia para los estudiantes de ELL de habla española. Con esto concluye nuestro informe de actividades y muchas gracias.
The council continues working with other parent groups and attended parent activities at schools 12, 35, and 50. They have attended PLAC and CPAC meetings. I was also able to participate in the Finance Committee this week. We continue to be deeply concerned that we are placing bilingual teachers working in non-bilingual schools. While the BEC agrees that all schools should have bilingual staff, a priority must be placed on bilingual teachers to be placed in bilingual programs. This is an area of staff shortages and is cited on the consent decree and ELL corrective action plan. We are also inquiring about how the district is planning for the influx of migrant students from Venezuela, Honduras, El Salvador, and Latin America and Spanish-speaking countries. What are the contingency positions that have been allocated in the budget for the influx of Spanish-speaking ELLs? We respectfully ask that the administration submit a written response for both concerns, bilingual teachers' placements, and contingency positions for Spanish language ELLs. That concludes our activity report. Muchas gracias, May 2023.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss collective negotiations, matters related to the appointment, promotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of particular persons, student matters which are confidential by federal or state law, and pending or current litigation with the general counsel. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So we will recess to go into executive session, and we will continue with the meeting once we are out of executive session. Thank you. Good evening. We are back in open session and in continuing with the business meeting agenda. The next item on the agenda is our board reports. There is no audit committee report for this business meeting, and I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Simmons for the ESA report. Commissioner Simmons?
Thank you, President Elliott. The ESA report, the Equity and Student Achievement Committee of the Whole, met on Tuesday, May 16th. During that meeting, the board reviewed and accepted minutes from the April 18th meeting. The committee received a collaborative robotics presentation featuring students from ROC 3838, Rock City Robotics, Robotics 1450, and Wilson XCATS. The students highlighted competition goals, established partnerships, and ways the board can support their efforts. The Wilson XCATS, I'd like to just acknowledge that students that participate with them specifically currently have a 100% graduation rate, so that is certainly to be commended. School chiefs Matthew, Morian, and White joined Director of Attendance Carly Jelsma to share network attendance highlights. Director Jelsma continued the presentation by focusing on district-wide attendance trends, key barriers, and partnerships. Quarterly cohort tracking data was presented by Deputy Superintendent Strickland. During the presentation, commissioners requested the administration provide disaggregated data related to first-time ninth grade students as opposed to students that are tracked as ninth graders due to the number of earned credits. Commissioners requested a deep dive into interventions used to improve attendance and student performance. These topics will be revisited. The next ESA committee meeting will take place on Tuesday, June 13th at 5:30 p.m. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Simmons. The next report is the Finance Committee. There's no CIGR report, so Vice President LeBron?
Hi, thank you. Good evening. The Finance Committee did not convene this month. However, the committee continues to participate in monthly preview meetings in order to review the district's financials, upcoming resolutions with a fiscal impact, as well as any additional reports as needed. And this month, the previews meeting took place on Friday, May 19th. And at this time, I'm going to invite our CFO, Sean Farr, to present the May 2023 financial report. I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thanks, Tom. Good evening. So I had last spoke to you, and at the end of March, we had $331 million, and I noted that that'll be our high point. And then we kind of collectively bounce downward through next January when we'll hit our low point again. So that's kind of our cycle. And then it has to do with when we specifically get funding from the state. So as of April 30th, we're still strong. We had $294 million. So that is obviously very healthy. That is $52 million more than the same period last year. So we're still tracking well fiscal health-wise. If you go to page 2, and we'll break out some things to note. One thing to note significant is in the previous meeting, the board had approved an allocation of $7 million from fund balance, and that was specifically around safety and security issues that we wanted to set aside some money so we could get started getting projects and planning around improvements, specifically external improvements around safety and security at the schools. If you go down to the middle of the page 2, where there's a summary of revenues, you'll see that our general fund has a positive variance, but that also reflects the impact of $7 million coming in from fund balance. So for comparative purposes to last year, if you remove that, we're actually down on our revenue budget by $106,000, which is pretty insignificant. It's 0.01%. So that's about as close on as you could get. So that's good. Grant funds are reflective of being high because we get grants during the year. Overall, then, we're still to the good. If you look at the total column, you'll see that we're to the good $17 million. If you back out the $7 million, we're up 1%. So that's you want to be on the positive side of that. So we're in good shape there. If you go down to the bottom of that page, and you'll see the general fund. Now we're talking about expenditures. You get to the general fund, and we had, as of April 30th, $188 million unencumbered in the current year budget, which is 22.3%. We're actually, through April, we're 83.3% through the fiscal year, or 16.7% remaining. So we have, you want to compare those to how much we have unencumbered versus kind of where we are straight line in the year. So we're to the good on our expenditure side as well. And then the same goes for the school food service fund. Go to page 3, and we're dealing with federal stimulus money here. The column of CRISA, and you'll see that we had 27 million unencumbered as of the timing of this report, and we have a plan to basically recode that in allowable expenditures. We have to put that in an amendment to the plan that we have to submit to the state monitor, and then ultimately the state. But those funds, through those approval process, we'll be able to recode those and expend all the CRISA money. You go over one column, slide over to the ARP column, and you'll see we had $119 million. Now we're spending some of that currently in the current year. We budgeted for 23-24, we budgeted $106 million to expend in 23-24. But the same process that we used in this year for CRISA, we will replicate for ARP next year, which is that we'll evaluate come September 1st, we will evaluate where we are with those funds. And if people aren't spending, we're going to pull back and then try to reallocate to expenditures that can occur. And then ultimately, we will cycle around, and if there's money remaining, we will look to recode that as we're doing the CRISA this year. So that's another submission, another amendment to the plan and recoding. If you go down to the bottom of, or section G on page 3, you'll see capital data here, and you'll note that, so part of this is the allocation of $7 million goes into as revenue into the general fund budget, but then is expended, transferred to the cash capital fund. So you'll see that we actually increased in our funding over the previous month. And then our bond expenditures, we continue to expend. We expended about $5 million in the month of April for projects that were used with bond debt. If you go to page 4, and you'll see some detail here of some highlighted projects, capital projects, and just going through, there's server upgrades, $650,000. The previously mentioned $7 million for safety and security projects. And then you'll see that we had resolutions that the board approved previously for Charlotte at $1.7 million. That was in March. And then funding for projects at East at $2.8 million, and that happened, the board approved that as a resolution in April. And those are the Charlotte and east are really just general construction renovation projects. School food service fund remains strong, so it's just been a great year for food service. I'm pretty excited about the coming year because I think we got some momentum this year, and I look for food service to build upon that momentum as we go into next year. I will note it's always a challenge because the constraint that happens on school food service, because it's federally funded, is the federal government keeps on changing kind of what you can serve or how much, salt, sugar, fat, things that you taste that make things taste good are reduced, and they keep on reducing those. So it's really surprising to me that with all the requirements, that you can still actually produce pizza, as an example, that is edible because it's got, very little salt in it, no fat, no sugar. So it's a challenge, and the food service people, I think, do a good job. But obviously, the consumers, the students, they're consumers as well. But we have these overlying constraints with the federal government that we have to adhere to. The last item I'll note is the student activity funds. We provide that every quarter. And so we have the report for March 31st, the first quarter of this calendar year. And the balance was $119,000, which is basically the same as where we started the quarter, about $717 higher. So those are funds. Now, normally, what you'll see is a lot of that will get expended in this second quarter because a lot of clubs and organizations save money, generate money during the year to spend at the end of the year, right? So on graduation and those kind of things.
Any questions for Chief Farr? Commissioner Powell?
Thank you for your report. I'm going to ask you to go back to page 3. You said something about $5 million, and I don't see anything in the narrative about that. So I'm just going to ask you to repeat that part.
Yeah. So what I could add, because what I do is so the number that I'm keying off of towards the bottom is the bond column where it has $13,453,000. So that's the balance remaining. What I personally do when I get this is I look, okay, what was it last month, and what's the delta? What's the difference? So the $5 million is we spent $5 million. We had like $18 million last month.
So that's why
yeah.
we're not seeing it
Yeah.
in this report. Is this isn't a month over month?
Yeah. Now, truthfully, to improve this and make it easier on me, I could just have that built in, because I'm actually, penciling in, doing some calculations. But for me, what's valuable is comparisons, like because you see a number and okay, you see a number, but you don't. What does that compare to? So in this case, what I compared to is where were we last month? How much did we spend in the month that we're covering here?
Thank you. That puts it in better perspective. Thank you.
Any additional questions? Okay, at this time, can I have a motion to approve the district's unaudited May 2023 financial report?
So moved.
Thank you.
Motions by President Elliott, seconded by Commissioner Adams. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you to our CFO as well. The next finance meeting, which is next month, June 27th, will feature a review of the monthly financial report, an update of the facilities modernization program, a presentation from our Medicaid compliance officer, and we look forward to seeing Mike in that meeting. And that concludes my report. Thank you, President Elliott.
Thank you, Vice President LeBron. And so our next item on the agenda is the committee report for the Policy Committee. Commissioner Powell?
Sure, okay. My report is on board docs. I won't read it word for word, but we do have 3 new policies in the pipeline as first readings as a result of our May 2nd committee meeting of the whole. We have 3 that are under under unfinished business as second readings, which we'll cover then. And we have one policy, Policy 6500, the fund balance policy, which is among the resolutions up for vote tonight. This I am going to read. An amendment to Resolution 2223:627 is presented in Board of Education Legal Audit Resolutions tonight to accept revisions made to Policy 3220, which includes removing the superintendent's regulations. So I guess I'll see you after the resolutions to talk about the individual policies, and our next committee meeting, oops, the report is incorrect. Our next committee meeting would be the first Tuesday of June, as opposed to May 2nd. So whatever the first Tuesday of June is?
June 6th.
June 6th. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Powell. I don't have a written report, but I will report on some of the meetings that I have participated in since our last business meeting. Just give a summary of that. I had a meeting with Assemblywoman Sarah Clark just to give her update on what we're doing at the district. So just some, general conversation about, what it takes to educate children in our district. It was a good meeting. I also had Brian Lewis, who is the executive director of Rock the Future, who we met during the President's Hours. One of the things he's asked me, and I will put it before this dais, is that he'd like to want us to reconsider participating from the board perspective in the Rock the Future efforts. And so I've got an email coming to you all, but I wanted to just to make sure that I indicate that I communicate that to you, that he has asked if I can ask you all. He may also may want to reach out to each one of you individually, so I told him that I would communicate that to you. But it was a good meeting, and so, but I've made some requests, like I want $8 million for my windows at Monroe High School, and so if he can give me $8 million, I may consider it. Attended meetings, Zoom meetings with Council of Great City Schools. One of the things that they were talking about the last meeting all around the country is, how to address issues of safety. And so there was some conversation around that. I want to also report that I've been attending the Facilities Modernization Committee meetings, and I've asked Chairman Richards to come and present to the board just to give us an update on where we are with the Facilities Modernization Project. I think I may have sent you all an email that indicated that they had one firm that applied for the project management position, and it was the same one from before, so they're going to be entering into contract with Gilbane and Savin Gilbane. And I wanted to report that the Vice President and I will be interviewed on WXXI. In one of the meetings that, one of the interviews that Evan Dawson did was with a former mayor, Bill Johnson, who indicated that he didn't have much confidence in the success of urban schools. And so they've asked us to come on to talk about that. And so I did reach out to the former mayor, and he's out of town now, but we'll have a conversation. I really wanted just to get his perspective on that, and then to listen to the interview, because I have not done that yet. So that's coming, and that'll be on Tuesday, and it's at noon. So if you are able to listen, please listen to that. And then just lastly, well, a couple of things. I know the superintendent is going to report on it, but I just wanted to just thank those educators and those SROs and Brother Kev for the great work that they're doing in our district and how they help to protect us and, go into action when they see that there is a need. So I just want to, again, congratulate them, and I know that the superintendent is also going to express his congratulations. And then just lastly, I just wanted to, recognize our general counsel. He's going to be having his nuptials sometime soon. Just want to congratulate him on his upcoming wedding. And so we just appreciate you and congratulations for that. And so that's the end of my report. I think that if you can, Rahima, just grasp some of the things that I've said and put in a report, that would be great. And so that is, I will come with a report next month, a written report next month. So on to the next item, and it is Superintendent Peluso's presentation. Dr. Peluso.
Thank you, President Elliott. Good evening to all of our board commissioners, our families watching on YouTube, our staff watching on Facebook Live and YouTube as well. This is my superintendent's report for the month of May. I'd like to spend a part of the time this evening providing you an update on the fiscal and programmatic progress we have made as part of the ARP and CURSA monies we have received from the federal government. CURSA, the closeout plan, is currently underway. The only grant activity that is taking place is the closeout of the closeout process. So I just want us to make note that CURSA funding has stopped, and we're really closing out the process for recoding those expenses. ARP will continue spending with budget adjustments for the 23 and 24 school year. As I mentioned, next year we have to make some difficult decisions without this aid and the use of federal stimulus funds. And I want to provide you with an update on our spend down plans and our projections as we move forward. In terms of ARP money, we have used for programmatic implementation. There are currently 41 initiatives that are underway. That information is being provided to you in a separate document that you're receiving in part of this report. I want to call your attention to two highlights within those 41 initiatives, including HBCU field trips and the science curriculum. I mentioned last month that juniors and seniors from 11 of our high schools were part of an HBCU field trip over our last 2 school breaks, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for them. And the Amplify Science curriculum for grades K through 5 has been initiated. This curriculum aligns with the New York State Science Learning Standards and comprehensively integrates materials and resources that engage students in 3-dimensional problem solvings. Complete district-wide implementation of this curriculum is scheduled for next school year. Once again, just as a reminder, this slide represents where we are as of March 31st, 2023, and our initial allocations of $284,402,872, and the breakdown of CURSA and ARP in both of those allocations, and where we are today with an available balance of $28,450,000 in CURSA and $123,568,000 in ARP. This slide right here shows kind of the projection of how the funding has gone from each quarter and by quarter. So the district is in the process of preparing an amendment for both funding sources. As a reminder, the district enacted a CURSA closeout plan, and Chief Financial Officer Farad mentioned this, which froze the grant in December. The amendment closed out the actual expenditures that were contained in the grant up until that point. And then we repurposed the unspent amount of money remaining to fund eligible general fund expenditures for this school year. So now that the CURSA spending, we have froze it and we've stopped the spending, we are now recoding the money that was left over into our general fund expenditures, which will then trickle down to our fund balance. We expect CURSA to be completely spent down at the end of the grant, as represented by this graphic. No further activity is currently underway, so CURSA money right now, as you think about it, it's coming to an end. We're closing out the grant. We're recoding our expenditures so that we could relinquish our general fund with appropriate and approved spending. The ARP amendment realigns the ARP budget with the 22, 23, 24 budget. And as we continue to monitor the progress of full spend down, we'll need to replicate the CURSA contingency spend down plan. The state is going around and encouraging schools to stop spending in June of this money so that they could recode and get the process done. Our grants team is remarkable, and they've done some really remarkable work. We're going to freeze spending on ARP in September of 2023 so that we could begin the ARP closeout process and then repurpose any remaining available ARP funds to supplant eligible general fund expenditures for 23-24 school year. So remind you, these two funds, if not fully expended, we will recode to relinquish general fund balances and will continue to increase our general fund. Our stakeholder engagements, there are various resources available to you and the public describing both the fiscal and programmatic activities within the relief funds. In our budget book, there was a whole section in the back of the budget book on how those sources, that money was being spent. Our next committee of stakeholder meeting is slated to take place next week on May 30th. I want to talk a little bit about the school climate survey. The RCSD and the State Education Department are seeking continued feedback about school climate. A school climate survey is now online, and it will provide us with a basis of understanding and improving the educational climate for our students, staff, and families in the RCSD in the areas of engagement, safety, and school environment. The survey runs through Friday, June 9th. The board has said that it wants to see a 25% increase in the number of people completing this survey, and this was one of the goals we identified in September. In this fall of this school year, we had a total of 3,584 respondents over a 4-week period, and you see that in the bottom graph there, which says fall, December 5 to January 6. We have seen in just 1 week already, so we've just began administering this survey. In just 1 week already, we have seen a total of more than 3,564 responses. So we've increased our communication efforts to ensure that all of our families, students, community are participating. And you can access this survey on our website at www.rcsdk12.org/climate survey, which will take only a few minutes. It doesn't take a whole lot of time and gives us really great information. So please, it's anonymous and can be accessed from any device. We really want to hear from our students, teachers, parents, and staff. If you haven't seen these, you have to. I'm so excited to share with you our second annual celebration of seniors, which we launched last week on our social media sites. Countdown to Graduation is a series of short stories that showcase one of our graduating seniors from each of our high schools. These videos offer a unique glimpse into the personal experiences and journeys of these remarkable students, where they talk about their time in school and how it has influenced their aspirations and shaped their plans for the future. I encourage you to keep an eye out for these inspiring videos. I think we're at 3 or 4 at this time, and when I tell you, they are worth spending a couple of minutes to watch. They really are amazing. Prior to our next board meeting, which is unbelievable, we will have completed all of our June graduations. So to our graduating class of 2023, you're on the cusp of a major achievement. I'm filled with great pride thinking about our seniors holding their diplomas and making the move to college or a career in the very near future. I extend my heartfelt congratulations to the class of 2023, and I especially want to thank and express my gratitude to the parents, families, teachers, and staff who have played a vital role in making this monumentous occasion possible. And on this slide, you could see the schedule for graduations. Our student voice in Washington, D.C., I will tell you, towards the end of this year, every single day I've been more and more amazed in seeing what our kids could do. And earlier this week, one of our own students from Edison represented the RCSD on a national stage. I'm immensely proud of Alex Santiago, a standout senior in the P-TECH program, who is among 13 students from around the country selected to participate in the Mikvah Challenge Soapbox Nation. Over the weekend, Alex delivered an impactful speech to Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. as part of the Project Soapbox program. where students are given a public speaking platform to share their ideas and perspective. Alex chose to tackle the topic of the harmful aspects of social media and delivered a passionate and thought-provoking speech that left a lasting impression on all who heard it. That was wonderful. Joining Alex on his trip to Washington, D.C. were 3 other exceptional seniors from the RCSD, Azaria Bowman, a student at Edison, as well as Jorge Luis Jimenez Ortiz and Corey Rivers, students at Northeast. All took part in the Mikveh Challenge Youth Summit, a 3-day program that provides young people from across the country with the opportunities to develop their leadership skills and civic engagement skills. The summit's objective was to create a task force that addressed critical issues facing young people today, including education, the environment, equity, mental health, community, safety, and more. These 4 students exemplify the meaning of dedication and hard work, and this experience serves as a reminder of the impact that young people can have on our world. It was an honor to have these students represent the district in such a meaningful way. Teacher Appreciation Week. To our amazing educators, please know your hard work and unwavering dedication to our students does not go unnoticed. Earlier this month, we celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week, and your efforts to guide, nurture, and inspire our students are truly commendable. I am grateful for the impact you've made every single day. You make a lasting difference in the lives of our countless young minds, and we had the privilege this week to recognize our mentors and our interns of the year, and today we also recognize our educators of the year, along with our SSOs and some others that have come and really represented what it is to be a staff member in the Rochester City School District, so I thank you. Another celebration, RCSD has once again been recognized for its unwavering dedication to the music education for the 5th year in a row. The National Association of Music Merchants Foundation has honored the RCSD with its Best Communities for Music Education Award. This is a prestigious honor given to the school districts that show exceptional commitment to providing students with access to quality music. I'm extremely proud of the dedication shown by our music teachers and department, so thank you to all our music educators. And Do the Right Thing Award. At the last Do the Right Thing Award, we had 9 RCSD students who received the Do the Right Thing Award for their positive behaviors, accomplishments, and good deeds. These students were nominated by their teachers, family members, and a 911 operator for helping staff avoid dangerous situations at school. One student saved his mother from choking on food. Another student helped organize the collection of blankets for homeless population in Rochester. Once again, congratulations to all the 9 of these well-deserving award recipients. Bike to School Day. It was a little rainy, but it didn't dampen the spirits of students and parents from School 23 who celebrated National Bike to School Day earlier this month. The eager bike riders started their route from the Rochester Museum and Science Center and Cobbs Hill Park and ended their journey at school number 23, where they were treated to hot chocolate and donuts. National Bike to School Day is an excellent opportunity for schools across the country to come together, celebrate, and use the momentum of National Bike Month to build awareness about the benefits of bike riding. Another special ceremony. Students from each of the RCSD high schools joined their peers from across the county, in Monroe County, to celebrate outstanding seniors at the Michael C. O'Laughlin Recognition Dinner. The event, named after respected educators, organized by the Monroe County Council of School Superintendents to honor exceptional high school seniors. We are proud to have 12 role models in the RCSD who were recognized for their hard work and achievements at this year's dinner, which was held at East High School. And let me tell you, I do have to take a moment and just mention the outstanding meal we were served at East High School by the East High School students. It was prime rib, it was salmon. I mean, it was
I didn't get invited?
Oh, listen, I hear this fish fry at lunch, like, so, it was a great meal, and wanted to thank Superintendent Nelms and East for hosting. We have some exciting program for our students during this year's Summer of Discovery. As we know, summer learning is crucial for our students to continue their academic growth. Through our Summer of Discovery experiences, students will have the opportunity to develop key competencies, mindsets, and conceptualized understandings essential for school success in school. Some of our students will explore nature and delve into history when they visit A Horse's Friend in Rush. This is an outreach program whose mission is to expose inner-city children to the world of horses. There's also a field trip scheduled to the Harriet Tubman House in Auburn, which will empower students to discover the remarkable life and enduring impact of this courageous freedom fighter. CTE camps will captivate middle school students by channeling their interest into science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. From baking to digital media, technology to fashion, and even esports, students will explore diverse fields, nurturing their passion for innovation. 8th grade students will seize the opportunity to earn high school credits at St. John Fisher University, immersing themselves in a college setting. Courses such as history of hip-hop music and urban poetry will reignite their passion, motivating them to return to campus in 4 years at St. John Fisher and potentially enroll in college. I know that was a long one, but that concludes my superintendent's report.
It was good, Dr. Peluso, real good report. So we love hearing those stories. And I just want to share and congratulations to our graduates as well on behalf of the board. And we're going to be around. Dr. Peluso, you and I are going to be hanging out together during the graduation so we can hit all of them. So just congratulations on all of the graduates out there. You'll hear more from us as we go to those various ceremonies. And so the next agenda item is a report from East High School. Dr. Nelms is sitting in the audience, but we have with us who's going to present to us the Assistant Superintendent for East, Dr. Christopher Spence. And we heard, I think last month when Dr. Nelms was reported that he will become a superintendent in New Hampshire.
Correct.
And so we want to congratulate you on that, and that starts effective July 1st. And so we congratulate you. And so Dr. Nems wanted Dr. Spence to get some experience, and so that's why he's here instead of Dr. Nems. But if we have any questions, I'm sure that Dr. Nems will be able to respond to those. So Dr. Spence, congratulations on the new position, and you're on.
Thank you very much. Really excited about that, and just want to give a shout out to Dr. Nelms for giving me the opportunity to come here and learn and grow at East and become a part of Rochester City School District. Got the opportunity to speak with some of you board members and talk to you and just observe. So I'm going to take the skills, content, knowledge, and apply it in another a system and hope to improve the lives of children. So thank you, and I thank this community. I'm going to start by saying good evening to the board, our state monitors, our viewing audience at home, and we'll get into it. So again, my computer is not working here, but we'll start from there. So and to continue on, we want to celebrate our seniors that are going to be moving on to their next steps. And we really want to highlight that we had some seniors get into some really amazing, prominent institutions, and we have other students that are going directly into the workforce. So I just want to celebrate them and all of their hard work. And I also want to note some of the structures and the people within our system that have contributed to success. So our College 30 group, our guidance counselors that work day in and day and night to make sure that our students are, prepared and right-sized with colleges, as well as our Step to College program, all designed to augment student outcomes and help students traverse to tertiary education. So I want to highlight them and again celebrate our seniors. We also had the opportunity to celebrate literacy. We had a young adult novel author, Jason Reynolds, come to East. And this partnership was realized, this event was realized because of the partnership with the Monroe County Library, as well as the greater RCSD library system. We were able to give students books. He signed them, and he authentically showed up, and students asked him questions about his life experiences and life work. And it really was a great way to not only represent, but also connect students with, mentors and role models. So good day there. Dr. Peluso, you're right, the food was great, but we had our Monroe County Outstanding Senior Banquet, and this was a great opportunity for our culinary arts program to really help students prepare a really good dinner for our guests, and that was, seems like it was well received, and I'm happy that they had the opportunity, and the food really was good. I was looking for leftovers the next day, so kudos to them. We partnered with Beyond the Green, PGA Beyond the Green, which is a unique program that's designed to get students of color into sort of the golfing business, so this golfing apparatus, to show them, you know, careers in the PGA, to diversify it. So our golf team went there, they represented, they were exposed to the business of the PGA, and it was a great opportunity to show students that there are different ways to engage with golf in that industry. So great partnership there, and we're looking forward to continuing that work. One of the things that we've been intentional about to really service our faculty, staff, and students was the way we used our superintendent's conference days. So we have a social emotional learning day dedicated during the superintendent's conference day for the latter portion of the day, where students really get to connect with teachers, educators, and support staff in varying ways beyond the traditional instructional methods that we're used to throughout the day. So here you'll see students working on things in the garden, students taking advantage of some arts and craft activities, and really getting to connect on an intimate level with their teachers beyond traditional instruction. Again, it's clear we like to cook at East. So our students, they prepared a 6-course lunch at a venue that I think I need to go check this out, the Woodcliff Lounge. So Lodge, where one of our graduates from the East Culinary Program works there as a chef. So they were able to prepare a 6-course meal, and I'm sure it was good, and something to check out as well. So on Saturday, we had some of our students and staff report to East to beautify our facilities. They worked to clean the facilities, even though it was a cold or rainy day. They still came out, and it really speaks to the school culture and climate that we're working to build and maintain at East. And again, it's just good work to have service to the community, particularly our campus, with faculty, staff, and students. Along the same lines, as we're working to prepare students for college and career, we've exposed our 8th grade students to a wide range of professions, things that require certificates across the continuum, different professions, some that require tertiary education, other things that, have a direct pathways from maybe our CTE programs or just the direct pathways through other certification programs. But it's really designed to get our students thinking about what life is beyond high school, and this was a great way for them to engage with members of our community at large. And today, and I'm sure I'll see the pictures, but today our medical laboratory and health sciences program had a wellness expo where they were presenting some of their posters and some of the things that they have been working on. Unfortunately, because it was happening simultaneously today, we don't have pictures yet, but I'm sure we'll have some updates possibly at the next board meeting. We lost a teacher, Shana Louise Pies, and she had such an impact on the East Campus that faculty, staff, and the community thought it would be good to dedicate the library to her because she was a literacy teacher. I had not the pleasure of working with her directly. However, from the things that I've heard from members of our community and our campus, she was beloved, and her work will live on through the impact that she was able to make on students and families. Again, we're continuing on with our unveiling projects, so we invite you all to come meet with us on June 11th at 5:30 as we unveil our 10 More Eyes project. And this will be a local hero, Dr. Walter Cooper, and he will be positioned on our East Campus. That concludes my report. Great things are happening here at East. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Spencer. Let me just open it up if my colleagues have any questions of either Dr. Peluso or Dr. Spence. All right. Well, thank you all very much. The next item on the agenda, we will consider resolutions. And so is there a motion for resolutions 644 through 650?
Motion. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy, seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda items? This is Resolution 644 through 650. All right. Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item for consideration is Human Capital Resolutions, Resolution 651 through 657. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Can I get a
Second.
second by Commissioner Malloy? Any questions or comments related to Resolution 651 through 657? Commissioner Adams?
Yeah, I see 651 is about tenure, and I used to go to the colleges and talk to up and coming teachers, and I used to tell them, you know, to be creative and this and that. Think outside the box, but I always told them, get your tenure first, you know, when you get in there. And so I'm happy to see some names on this list today. And I'm happy to see all the names that are on this list, but I really have to call out, because it's stability. I have to call out, I'm so happy to see Deb Washington on this list, Stephanie Thompson on this list, Edward Muscadri on this list, Lisa Guerra, and Abby Martino, man. I just had to shout them out. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions with regard to those particular resolutions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 658 through 677? These are the EPO resolutions. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner Patterson. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Simmons. Any questions or comments relating to resolutions 658 through 677? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Can I get a motion for resolution for resolutions 678 through 690? But I'm also seeing that there is an amendment to resolution 437.
Motion.
Motion moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President LeBron. Any questions or comments related to these resolutions? So I do have one on 687, Mr. Superintendent. I think we talked about it, but I can't remember what our conversation was. This is, I think, about a $5.6 million resolution that I wanted to get some more information on.
So I will start, and if, as Chief Schmidt comes up, but I believe this is an energy efficiency project that we're investing in for low voltage lighting, LED lights. We receive state aid and return on this spend as well. So over a 15-year period, we'll see some positive cash flow from this, but I'll ask Chief Schmidt if I missed anything.
Good evening, everyone. President Elliott, Vice President Brown, Superintendent Peluso. As always, sir, you don't miss anything. You're right on target. The only other thing I would add is in alignment with the financial plan in regards to energy savings, so we're eager to get started. The solar panels and the LED lights are ready to be ordered and certainly ready to be installed. We did add a few more buildings to this list because we had some the ability to save even more money, and the documented savings would be are in the background of the resolution.
All right, thank you very
You're
much,
very welcome.
Chief Schmidt. Any other questions or comments related to these resolutions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Can I get a motion for Resolution 691, a finance and procurement resolution?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 691? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Motion carried unanimously. Can I get a resolution for, a motion for Resolution 692 through 698?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 692 through 649? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for resolution?
President Elliott, I just want to make sure that she's capturing my votes because I'm having a problem here with this.
I'm
voting.
taking them, yes,
You got
I'm
it?
also taking them verbally, so
Okay,
you're all
thank you.
set.
Set? All right, thank you. Is there a resolution, a motion for resolutions, is it 699 through 701? Yeah.
Motion.
Motion by Commissioner
Second.
Simmons and seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 699 through 701? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 702 through 705?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Is there a second? Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to Resolutions 702 to 705? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Is there a motion for Resolution 706 through and 707?
Motion.
Moved by Commissioner Simmons. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 706 and 707? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There's a motion for Resolution 708 through 712.
Motion.
Moved by
Second.
Vice President LeBron, seconded by Commissioner Malloy. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 708 through 712? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for Resolution 713 through 718?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 713 through 718? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 719?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President LeBron. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 719? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Is there a motion for Resolution 720 through 722 and the amendment to Resolution 627?
Motion.
Moved by Vice President LeBron. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to Resolution 720 through 722 and the amendment to Resolution 627? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was there a question, Commissioner Powell?
Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion for Resolution 723? Now, are these the school safety and the stability? Do we have the numbers to them? Maybe I didn't refresh.
Yes, President Elliott, if I could clarify. So first is the motion to waive the 48-hour, and then the resolutions that will be after that. They're going to be opening.
Okay, so,
Motion.
Second.
yeah. Yeah, but I was looking for a number. Okay, so all of those, so the school safety, I'm thinking that 723 is separate from the school safety and the leadership, and I was looking for a resolution number.
Correct. So there's resolution 723 to 726.
All right, so what
725.
Rahima says, 723 through 726, so who gave the motion?
Motion.
Vice President LeBron, I thought
Second.
you had said it before. Commissioner Malloy, second?
One second, Board Clerk, yeah, there are no numbers on what I'm seeing, so we're
Yeah.
sure it's 723 through 726?
Hold on, let me look.
Yes.
Hold on one moment. So, yes, you all just need to refresh.
Yeah, I
refresh
maybe
your-
did not refresh, yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just refreshed, and
All
it
right.
does reflect 723 through 726.
All right, okay. Any other questions or comments related to those resolutions?
I do. I have some comments, but I don't know.
Okay. So did you have any questions, Commissioner Patterson? Okay.
Excuse me, President Elliott, can I just, so clarify, Vice President LeBron motioned, and then who seconded that item?
Commissioner Adams.
Thank you.
Can I make my
Yeah,
comments?
go ahead.
then?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Sure. We'll come back to you, Commissioner Patterson.
So I have comments related to both 724 and 725, and I don't know if the superintendent wants to also make comments on 724. So I just want to thank the administration and the Bente leadership and our leadership in the district for coming together, and I certainly want to uplift Commissioner Adams' push and fight for this board to push on the administration to raise the pay for our centuries all throughout the district. And so I just wanted to thank you all for uplifting this so that our individuals at least have a smaller token of appreciation. I think there is no amount of money that we can ever have to be thankful enough for the work that they do. That's related to 724. In relations to 725, I just want to thank all of the leaders that are being honored in this way through equity, but I want to just uplift the fact that the superintendent did put out an RFP for a pay equity study to look at how many employees would be eligible, who would be eligible, and eligibility criteria, what that looks like across the entire district. And so that will take some time, but we are committed to ensuring that there is a balance in pay equity for our most senior employees who perhaps started at a much lower pay rate than the current pay rate and are closer to some of the newer employees in terms of starting salaries. Regardless of the 20 years investment, they may be off by a few dollars from new employees, and we want to make sure we make that right, and we want to do it correctly as well and ensure that everyone who should be impacted is impacted in a positive way. And I just wanted to say this on record that it is going to take some time, but rest assured that this is a commitment of this board and the administration together to ensure that pay equity happens across the district, but that it happens correctly and with intentionality and in a methodical way. So I just wanted to uplift that. But I do want to thank ASAR for advocating for their members too, because there's been a pay inequity for a long time in ASAR, and a lot of people may not know that sometimes principals are often overlooked in these conversations and negotiations in one hand, and on the other, we're always talking about how important building leadership is and how critical it is to the outcomes that happen in that school and how the staff feels supported and the retention. All of those things really start with the leadership at the helm of a building. And for a long time, we haven't done our part to really fully acknowledge and invest in them. And so I'm actually grateful to see it this way, and that this is a small token right now, in my opinion. But again, a token appreciation for your work that you do. Thank you.
Great comments, Vice President LeBron. Commissioner Patterson? Commissioner Peluso? Superintendent Peluso?
And I think everyone or others will make comments. I just want to talk about the 3 walk-on resolutions that you'll be considering tonight for the purpose of salary adjustments for 2 employee groups. The first resolution proposes an hourly wage increase for our school safety officer, and a very well communicated goal of this board during our budget process. And so the safety and well-being of our students and staff are of the paramount importance. School safety officers play a crucial role in creating a safe learning environment, ensuring that all students can focus on their education without fear or distraction. The increasing level of violence outside of our school campuses have made it more challenging to maintain this safe environment. Our SSOs are on the front lines. We hear that every single day, dealing with potential threats, diffusing conflicts, and responding to emergencies. Their dedication and commitment deserve the recognition. Increasing the salaries of SSOs not only reflect the value we place on the contributions, but also demonstrates our appreciation for their dedication and commitment to keeping our schools safe, sending a clear message that we recognize their importance and are committed to supporting them in their role. We believe it will boost morale, job satisfaction, and overall motivation. The second resolution addresses an issue in equity that we've prolonged for a little bit too long, and propose a salary adjustment for Bracket 1 ASAR members. This proposal is driven by several critical factors that support the importance of this rationale. The first is organizational stability. We've heard it too much here that the lack of stability is impacting our organization. And this is essential for effective functioning of any school district. By offering competitive salaries to our administrators, we can retain and attract highly qualified professionals who possess the necessary skills and experiences to lead our schools and key departments. Equity in action is another critical principle that guides our decision-making process. Achieving pay parity is essential for promoting a culture of fairness and reducing disparities within our district. By providing salary increases to certain administrators, we will address existing pay gaps. And retention. Retention is, extremely important in the war on labor right now of talented professionals. And this is continuing to be a pressing concern in RCSD. Highly skilled administrators are sought after in the education sector, and we must take proactive measures to retain our talent. By providing competitive compensation, we can reduce turnover rates, maintain institutional knowledge, and ensure continuity in leadership, which ultimately benefits our students and the entire school community. This is just another step, and we have others to take, that address our shared goals to ensure and evaluate equity and pay across the district as we continue to maintain organizational stability, equity in action, and retention of talented staff. Approving these resolutions and investing in competitive compensation packages demonstrates the care we have for our staff and our commitment to attract and retain highly qualified professionals, promoting fairness and creating a stable and thriving educational environment for our students. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peluso. Commissioner Patterson, you had a question or
Thank
comment?
you. Yeah, comment. Again, I'm, personally for the SSOs and the resolution. I think it's 220. What is it? 723.
724.
724.
724 is SSO.
Right, SSOs. 725, that resolution, first of all, let me say that I highly respect the superintendent. I think he's very competent, very competent individual. I support him 110%. But we're not going to always agree on everything. And when I don't agree with him on something, it doesn't mean that I think he's incompetent. It's just that I don't have a good feeling, or I haven't been able to do my due diligence relative to that resolution. So only having 24 hours to make a decision, it's not enough time for me to gather the information I need to make an educated decision. And for me, it's very difficult. I appreciate and I'm very appreciative of what the Vice President and how she spoke eloquently relative to our staff, and it's all true. And exactly, I support, like I said, the superintendent 110%. But for me personally, and my colleagues know that I will not vote on anything that I do not feel comfortable with, and I have not done my due diligence. And I think in this area, having less than 24 hours to make a decision, I just could not make that. And what I really wanted to see was a salary comparison, not only in our area, but maybe the Big Five, a comparison of, what they're paying, what the salaries are being earned by other people in these positions, and I couldn't see that. So I just want to say that I appreciate, my colleagues, I appreciate, the superintendent and the work he's doing, and, leave it at that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments related? Any other questions or comments related to resolutions 723 through 726? Is that correct? 723. Commissioner Adams?
All I just want to say is thank you.
Okay,
That's it.
all right, okay. All in favor of resolution 723 through
President
720?
Elliott, I'm sorry to interrupt. So we were still needing a vote on the motion to waive your 48-hour rule?
Oh, so is there a motion to waive the 48-hour?
That was for Vice President LeBron motion and Commissioner Simmons second, but we didn't vote on
Oh,
that.
so we have not voted, all right. So is there a motion for,
All in favor. Just calling for the vote.
oh, all in favor? Thank you.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, all those in, motion carries. So the next item of business,
Is a motion for resolution 723 through 725. I'm
All right.
just making the motion.
Correct, that would be the motion now, yes.
Commissioner LeBron?
Motion.
Six.
So,
Second.
sorry, 723 through 726.
Yeah, so Vice President LeBron has moved it. Is there a second by Commissioner Powell? We've had questions and comments relating to that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed to 725, I think it is.
All right, thank you, so.
I took that manually,
All
thank you.
right. And so the, I'm seeing something about related party transactions? Nothing there? All right. And then under unfinished business, we have a second reading for, Commissioner Powell, you want to talk about that?
Sure. We have 3 policies that cleared the policy committee and have had their first readings last month. That is policy 4513, library materials selection. Policy 5000, student policies goals. That was developed largely by the students through SLC themselves. And policy 5191, students with HIV-related illness. Oh, I thought we were going to change the title. Okay. In any event, we are at the second reading. We didn't have anyone speak to the board on these policies. Next month, June, it will be the last opportunity for the public to convey any concerns because we will be voting next month on these. So if there's any comment anyone wants to make on these 3 policies, now is the opportunity.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Powell. Any questions or anything at this point? All right,
Shall I go right into first readings?
sure.
Okay.
No.
Oh, no, we've got to vote on the calendar, right? So can I get a motion to approve the 2023-24 board meeting calendar? And we talked about this before, and Rahima has sent out information with regard to this. So is there a motion to approve it?
President Elliott, before we, so I did send out, we talked about this last month, and the feedback that I received is reflected in this iteration, which was to remove monthly work sessions, which were held on the first Thursday of the month, and just go to 4 quarterly board retreats. Work sessions will be added as hoc as needed.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Malloy, seconded by Commissioner Adams. Any questions or comments related to our board meeting calendar?
Yes.
Vice President LeBron.
I just want us to, I have a proposal, it's a verbal proposal, and we can always amend this later, and I just want you all to think about this, that as we move forward for the board business meetings, that we start those at 6 and open the meeting and then go to executive session and then start public comment by 6:30 so that we can ensure that we do our executive sessions before the board business meetings. That way, when we leave here, you know, we're ending our night and our night ends. And the reason I say that is, many of you know, I mean, we have gotten so much better from when I first started, and public doesn't know, sometimes we would leave here 2, 3 in the morning. And when you're making decisions, when you've been up all day, I know many of us wake up at the crack of dawn, I know I do, I'm up at 5:30, to start making really critical decisions at 11, 12, 1 a.m., I don't think is as efficient as we can be. And I think if we just allowed ourselves to just shift that portion of our meetings to the beginning, It doesn't impact our community who's used to the board business meeting starting at 6:30 for the public input and comment portion, but it gives us the ability to be on point and better focus while we're having executive session conversations. And that way, like I said, when we're done, we come back. But you know the rules, we have to open the meeting, go into executive. So we would have to shift the meeting to start at 6, but with public comment starting at 6:30, the way we typically do. That's all.
Madam President?
Yeah,
If
Commissioner Powell?
If I could react to that, my only concern is that historically, we haven't been very disciplined about our use of executive section time, and anything we do before our official business starts, we have to all like buy into the culture of we're going to cover it in that half hour, and then we're going to, if we can't finish it, we'll have to continue the executive session, you know, after the business meeting has started. But, you know, it has not been part of our culture to keep our conversations in executive session tightly focused and on the decision making. So I'd love to see it happen. I hope it does happen, but it will mean a culture shift. If I may, my only comment about the calendar is that I might have been the last holdout on committees not having a meeting in July. It looks like we're still having something in July, but it's not going to be a policy committee meeting. So July 11th is a special meeting retreat.
Well, wonders never cease.
I know it. Like,
Wonders never
tell me to
cease.
stop working and I will fight it the whole way.
Well, we appreciate that,
All right.
Commissioner Powell. Any other comments regarding the approved calendar? So I'm thinking that we probably need to have more discussion on that, Vice President LeBron, and, you know, we'll come to some decision on that at a later date. But in the meantime, do we have the, did we make the motion and do we approve it? I think we did, right?
We took the motion, but we didn't vote yet. So I just want to clarify, we're going to vote now on the calendar as posted and have further conversation related to executive session movement.
Correct.
And then to clarify, Commissioner Powell, you are removing the policy meeting for July from the calendar.
It's not on this.
Okay, and it shouldn't be.
It's
Oh,
already-
perfect.
That decision is already reflected.
Ain't God good?
So in that case, we're just waiting for the verbal vote.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. And so we've got a discussion here, presentation for fast track hiring resolution discussion. Chief Miller?
Yes, actually, I'm going to take
Vice
it over
President
real
LeBron?
quick.
Okay.
While Chief Miller gets situated very quickly, I did not hold the HR committee this month, particularly because this was the most critical piece that we needed to discuss, and we kind of put it under new business for the whole board to be here in the administration. Last year, we came before you, we asked for the commissioners to help support both the administration and our human capital department and our chief around this notion of fast track hiring. And I just want to reiterate, because of the title, it does not mean that we don't do our due diligence with individuals who are applying. They still get interviewed. They still have to pass background checks and fingerprint, just like any other employee who applies. But what this allowed was really to move through our internal systems much faster, but also not hold up employees from starting in a building until we voted on a resolution. I know that there's some policy changes that we'll need to look at, but I'm also not comfortable asking the board at this time to change the policy until we collect the data. So our chief is going to present some data around the impact of this resolution, but I am hoping that we move this, extend it for another year, and then collect additional data, and then have at least 2 years of data to review and see what we need to tweak in the policy, what worked, what didn't work, There might still be pieces in the policy that we want to keep and uphold, and then just some areas where we may need to change to give them more flexibility to have an individual, like I said, apply, do their background fingerprint, and start out of school. And so I just wanted to kind of set that tone and put the plug in now for you all, that I do believe it will require a policy change. I just think we need, because we've never done this prior to this year, that we collect at least 2 years of data before we make an impactful policy change such as this. Now I turn it over to Dr. Miller. Thank you, President Elliott.
Thank you, Vice President LeBron. And I only have a single slide for you tonight, so it's a very brief presentation, but thank you. We did advocate in the summer for changes, including having resolutions for approval twice a month, right? And looking at a way to fast-track hiring so that we could put staff in front of students and community as soon as possible. We're in a war on talent in terms of competing with others, and we need to have people in front of our students serving our community. More than that, though, too, we ensured that many of the folks we're hiring who live in our community are earning an income sooner. They're not having to wait for board approval. So couple of really important takeaways relative to that work. In the old system, it could be up to 30 days for somebody to get appointed and start. And so we just don't have those delays anymore, which is wonderful. So what this slide just shows is the impact of that. These are all people who were able to start sooner. And you can see by contract unit, whether it was RTA, RAP, or Bente. And then they were, therefore, in schools, having an impact and influence sooner. So I think the results are really compelling and pretty simple.
Yeah. So when do they come to us for approval?
So it depends on when we get them an offer. It could be that it could be as quickly as a day. Or not that quick, actually, because we have to get the resolutions in multiple days in advance. But it could be 4 or 5 days at a minimum that they're coming before you, or it could be up to 30 days.
And that's based on, because we have the committees that are convened, and you could bring those resolutions to committee.
That's right. And the other thing that we did was certificated leaders, right? We were not doing. We were holding off bringing them to you first, so they were excluded from this process.
Any other questions for the chief with regard to this presentation? So we're looking forward, Vice President LeBron, to more information and more data that's going to be collected. You know, I just appreciate that we were able to you know, fast track a number of our candidates because they get in the classroom or whatever the position is sooner rather than later, and to be able to help us, particularly with a lot of vacancies that we have.
And so the resolution that you voted on last year expires June 30th, and so we'll be seeking to bring it back to the board for another year of approval.
Okay. Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
President, Commissioner Powell?
I've never been the president, so that's a really great promotion there. I would like to see a briefing document from our general counsel about what the state law says about our authority and even our ability to waive or postpone our approval authority on this. I'm sure it's been researched. I just would love to see a briefing document on it. And then I'd like to see what the plan is in the bizarre remote possibility that a name comes before the board and gets rejected. These would be people who'd already put in time, had already earned a paycheck. What would the system do if after all of that fast tracking, the board failed to approve a hire? And I know the probabilities are very low, but again, this is our legal obligation according to state law, so I just would like to know what the plan is to essentially wrestle that to the ground, if that's okay.
Yep, I can work on that.
All right. So, Vice President LeBron?
Yeah, I just want to comment that we're one of the few districts that does it this way. We actually, other school districts already have this process in the state of New York, including Buffalo, Syracuse, and Albany. And so that was how I even, when I first initially looked at this last year, I'm like, why do we do it this way? And we do it this way because we created it as policy. I don't understand what the rationale was when that policy was created or why it was passed. Perhaps it was to avoid certain people coming before the board, but we are one of the few out of the big fives that has this sort of a backwards process. And really, as board members, we should not be in the day-to-day pieces of the individuals that we're hiring at this level, because the other piece that I want to uplift, that the most impact, and when we had these conversations, we were really focused on our Bente unit, our RAP, our TAs, and doing outreach and recruitment in the community, including the mercantile events where we had these open interview processes, and we told folks, come as they are. And if you have not watched some of the news coverage around it from last year, there were individuals who did the best advertising for us because they went on television and said, yeah, they said, come as you are. I came as I was. People came with their kids. They applied. They got interviewed. They got hired. And those are the employees, and Dr. Miller did mention folks who were going into teaching or principals. Those are not necessarily fast-tracked. There is a completely separate process. We're talking about employees who go online, fill out an application, and never hear anything back. And then we have departments and food services. We have custodial staff, Bente staff, SSOs, who are then waiting forever, especially for us to approve before they can start. So I just want to point out that other districts, so to our legal counsel, that should be an easy legal brief for you to find, and you can also talk with other school districts. And we have the previous superintendent from Syracuse who's nodding in agreement, because I know I had a conversation with him about how they process it in Syracuse. And so just wanted to put that all on record for our listening audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President. And so, thank you, Chief Miller, Dr. Miller. And so we are done. Are we
President
done?
Elliott,
Did we not? Excuse me, Commissioner Powell?
Thank you. We went to 26B, and
my apologies
That's
for that.
fine, that's fine, thanks. So under the category of first readings, it's a little complicated, and I know this is the only thing standing between us and going home. So there are 3 items. 2 of them are easy, and I'll try to dispense with them. First reading for 3120, duties of the superintendent, and policy 5220, student publications. They left the policy committee on the beginning of the month, so they're before us for the first time. If there are any questions about that? Hearing none. Policy 5153 is a little more complicated than that. Regretfully, we didn't get some of the input from Dr. Jallo at the time that it left the committee. And we really don't want to hold this policy up. Ordinarily, I would ask that it be remanded back to committee to finesse this language, but I'm going to ask that we look at it here on the dais. In the board docs, you will find it under, it's the 4th item labeled Policy 5153. It's a track changes version, and I'm offering some language at the very last paragraph. And I don't know how large we can make it, but you can follow it along on your on your computer in front of you. This would be a brand new paragraph from what was presented to us in the policy committee, and I'll take it sentence by sentence. This is on review and reporting. District administration shall annually review this policy for amendment or rescission by October 31st and present such recommendations to the board immediately thereafter. The date was at Dr. Jallo's recommendation, So that's why that language is as specific as it is. The next sentence, the administration will also report on the implementation, outcomes, and impact of this policy through qualitative and quantitative data as mutually agreed upon by the board and district administration. So in other words, we want to see data on managed choice, and we should decide before that deadline of October 31st on what it is we want to see in that report, but in order to know whether it's effective or not, right? Extending on that sentence, this data is included but is not limited to the percentage of students receiving their first or second choice of schools, the percentage of students who participated in the lottery, and the percentage that utilize sibling or walk zone preferences and disaggregated by school. So those three sentences are being proposed as additions to what we voted out of committee. And I think we'd want to have a robust discussion about this and maybe even a vote as to whether folks are comfortable with it or proposed alternative language. And I see Commissioner Malloy has her hand up.
Can you just explain again the October 31st, why that date? It just seems arbitrary.
Yeah,
Is there something that corresponds to that date district-wide that
right.
would make it imperative to have that date? Why that date?
The date was requested by Dr. Jallo. I think it was part of her recommendations in her academic report. Dr. Jallo, would you like to
Does this like coincide
describe
to
your rationale for that?
Yes, good evening. My original rationale was that I figured by the time school started, you would have that data. By the time you've gone through your summer and those students who come after Labor Day and try to get into school, and you would have all your data by that time and would be able to gather the data. That was the thinking behind that date. But if you have an alternative date, maybe sooner, but not much later than that, because I want you to use that data to make some decisions about how you're going to continue on for the next lottery, which would start in a couple of months.
Right. To underscore that last point, historically, we've had a deadline to get the school profiles books published by Thanksgiving. So the time between like reviewing the data and putting together alternative proposals or what have you is a pretty tight one.
Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that. I just think that when we look at the managed choice policy as a whole, I think a frustration that a lot of families have when they're moving into our district. Not every family moves in the summertime, right, to start school. And when we have families who are looking for homes in the city and they get here after the lottery has already occurred, or they move here in the middle of the school year from out of state, their options are limited in our school district. And if they're able to, they're going to make other arrangements for their students, for their kids, if they can't get into, for instance, their neighborhood school, if it's not available. And we give kids the option, or families the option, to go, we place them somewhere, and then say, next year we'll get you, go through the lottery process, and but for most families, that's not realistic, when you're making these major life decisions. And so I have been frustrated, I think, as a parent in the district, to see this happening over and over, and we're trying to increase enrollment. We don't want to see declining enrollment, and there are lots of reasons why we have declining enrollment, but these types of policies make it a very unattractive option to move into the city. And it just increases middle-class flight. When people have the ability, they're not going to choose us because of the policies that we have in place. So those are just my feelings around it.
So the superintendent and I zoomed in on the exact same portion of the policy, so I'm going to let him speak to that.
So, yes, a concern that we recognize, the team recognized as we're doing this. That's why we're holding back 85, we're only filling 85% of the seats and holding back 15% of the seats for the ability, so when people come into the district, when people change, that we have some seat availability there to give students. Because it also, at our high school level, becomes a real big impact when students come potentially from, their experience with a charter school, and then they enroll with us, or they come in from out of state, or they come from somewhere else, and the same schools receive an influx of students all the time, and that was an area that I was concerned about, so we really changed this number to be at 85%, so that we leave some seats in.
In addition to that, I'll bring in my historian's hat and say that it was always the intention of the board when it studied this issue to give that authority to the superintendent, but that language didn't make its way into the written policy. And so that intention was lost to time. And folks responded to what they read on the page and not what was understood by those who had, crafted the document. So that's a good point. Can I ask folks to return their attention, though, to the final paragraph? Because this isn't something that we've all collectively agreed on yet.
So what are you asking, Commissioner Powell?
I would actually like a straw poll vote on the language that's here, to be incorporated in the next, into the policy, the draft policy that's going to be read next month, unless folks can think of better language to put on the page.
I would divert again to the superintendent. Is this language, and also to Dr. Jallo, so is this the language that we think will work best for this policy? That may not be the right wording to say, but, so you're supporting this language, Dr. Jallo?
Yes, I recorded this language because I think the policy is so important, it's so new, and I think it's important that first year, and hopefully continuously, that you measure the impact of the policy, and not just anecdotes, it felt good, it was a nice experience, et cetera, that's important, but real data. How many, we were in a meeting today about bilingual ed. How many of those students are in the lottery, get their first choice, get into the right program? How many students by school, do all schools have a certain number of seats open? I think you want to know that data to know how this significant change in this important policy is reflected, right? And whether or not you want to keep it or you want to continue to modify it. It worked, it didn't work, you find you have a more equitable process. The only way you can determine that is by looking at different forms of data. So that's why I want to be explicit about that kind of language in the policy.
And Dr. Peluso, your comments?
So I'll echo some of those remarks, but I think there are also some information that we do collect around first and second school, the choice of schools, who gets what percentage of first choices, who gets the second choice. I think that's all quality information for us as we make some future decisions around schools and reorganization and what it looks like. So I believe that the data will kind of help us, and a lot of this we collect already, but the whole thing is now it's really saying, let's look at it on a yearly basis.
Vice President?
Yeah, I just want to add that our board staff did an assessment last year on the number of policies that we pass with these reports, and they then have to also help manage when these reports come to the board, and we had a ridiculous amount of policies written with these reports. So it's not that I'm against it, I would just like some input from our board staff based on that assessment, where the reports for different policies were lined up and landed, and if this could fit under a different policy presentation or be combined. And then secondly, in regards to the day, I do agree with Commissioner Malloy, like the middle of October isn't going to help us for the following school year unless we're just going to have it that it's a year behind. If we're going to have a date, I actually think it should be at the end of June, so that if changes need to be made, they could be made in July to be started for August or September, or something along the lines of even January to prepare for the upcoming school year, but to throw it in October, for me, it just doesn't fit. However, if we can get that assessment, and I know our board staff knows what I'm talking about, I think it was like 85 reports that the administration was expected to present to the board over the years of policies written with reports. And in reality, we got not even 1/4 of those reports because people forgot, didn't know the transition turnover. So I just want to put that out there. Thank you, that's it.
Do you want to speak to that, Mr. Superintendent?
The one thing, a couple of things, the reporting of the numbers, once again, I think we have to think of how we report. Does that mean it's a formal presentation every single, because we'll run out of 81, it's not going to happen, right? We're just not going to be feasible. So I think we have to define what reports are and how that report out is and what the intention is here. And I just want to also say if the data is used for policy change, the policy change process takes some time, right? So that part here, if it's for just my decisions, that's a different frame and different time frame that we could use. But if we're talking about using this data, and if on policy change, that policy, as we know, takes several iterations to get through an approved process.
So, Dr. Jello, how do you respond to that?
Yeah, I'm not going to die on that hill of October. I made that date out because I do not know the lottery process. I don't know the mechanics of it. Does it take a week, 5 minutes? I don't know that. So that was just to be fluid as to giving the administration time to collect that information. I also am very careful with the language. I didn't say what kind of presentation, who has to make the presentation, is it verbal, is it electronic? I didn't do that. But I do think when I use that language, I want to make sure that all of you have access to that information so that you can make some good decisions and have a good idea of the impact of the policy. But the date is not written in stone, and how you present is not written in stone. I just want to make sure that it's very clear that all of you have seen it and had a chance to interpret it and analyze it.
So Commissioner Powell, does this need to go back to the committee, or what's your recommendation based on what Dr. Jallo just described?
Well, as I said, I'm really hoping to get some approval from this body tonight so that it does not have to be remanded back to committee. But I do see one other question from Commissioner Malloy.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if the review and reporting data that we're asking for, if perhaps that could also include another data point, perhaps information provided to us that relates to when students are moving in and out of the district. And I don't know if there's a way that we can quantify that, and find out whether or not they ended up staying in the district or going elsewhere when they didn't get the choice that they wanted. I'm wondering if there's a way to compile that data to give us meaningful feedback, And then the second thing I wanted to say, that's just like a change. I would love to see if there's another point of data that we could look for. But then I'm also wondering if at some point, if we can make things more student outcome oriented and use this information in a way that will help us drive better or try to attain better student outcomes.
Right. Now, you're talking about two pieces of information that really are outside the scope of policy, but very much within the scope of the administration's day-to-day workings. For instance, the tracking when people leave falls under the heading of qualitative data, right? We should be doing exit interviews when our families transfer out of the district, asking them where they're going and why. Are they going to a charter school? When they do a voluntary transfer from a school they were assigned to, or that they chose by lottery, or through the lottery system, and they decide that they want to do a voluntary transfer, what's the why behind that? Was it not what they wanted in the school? Even if it's just going from, school 2 to school 4, did you not feel welcome? What's the why behind that, right? Now, it occurred to me, as we were sitting here, that we could add that to the list of things to be reported out, but the sentence before that, it says that the contents of the report will be, mutually agreed upon between the administration and the board. So we lay that data, or that discussion out, prior to October. But certainly, I would highly recommend that the administration be thinking today about doing exit surveys, around the transfer process. What you indicated about achievement-oriented is that one of the aspects of the school profile...
Not just achievement, but just outcomes in
outcome
general.
appropriate. Well, one of the things about the profile books is it should be giving parents information about ELA and math achievement levels in prior years. Because we assume that families want to go to successful schools, right? We want them to know which ones of our schools are the successful schools, right? But that's all part of the administrative side of things, right? The last thing I want to say is about, there could be two reports. One after the lottery, showing the outcome of the lottery, and another one after bed stay when the voluntary transfer process is closed, right? They tell us two different things, right? One is what people's choices are, and the other is where did they end up after all the dust settled. There's a lot that goes into managed choice, but in terms of the review and reporting, the language is specific enough to be focused, broad enough to make room for changes as we go forward. The one thing I do like about the October 31st date, and again, as I said, it was, we historically have published the profiles books, the zone profile books by Thanksgiving. If as in the process of reviewing managed choice, the superintendent wants to change a zone boundary, right, based on changing demographics or what have you, it's important that he bring that information to the board before books are published, right? So the board can weigh in on that particular recommendation. Okay? Madam Chair, would you like to take a motion to approve this additional paragraph?
So we're going to be leaving it as is what I guess I'm trying to get in my head.
That is a first reading, and we're not voting on there's no,
I'm confused. No, I'm not asking for approval of the policy. I'm asking, I'd like to move that the board accept this new paragraph into our draft.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
Second. Motion.
Second by Commissioner Patterson. Is there any?
I'm sorry, who made the initial motion?
I'm not participating in this. It's going to be a no for me.
Who made the, I'm sorry, which commissioner made the initial motion? I did not hear.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we're voting with
on the
motion,
language.
Okay, but there's no resolution, so I'm a little confused what we're voting
I think
on.
you're talking about basically a straw poll, I think, perhaps, or.
But a straw poll is still a vote. I just want to put that out there.
Well, we can assign a number. The clerk could assign it a number.
So I've made my kind of feelings and recommendations on straw polls to the board known. The commissioner can make a motion for a decision by the board. On this specific, I think Commissioner Powell's motion was clear. It's just whether this would be incorporated into the current draft. So I do think Commissioner Powell can make that motion, and it can be acted on upon the board. It's not acceptance of the policy. It is
to include the language.
Right, the language is if this does come up in future versions and then gets adopted by the board, that it would include this. So I think it's allowable.
Can I just ask for clarity? Is there a number, I'm sorry. Is there a resolution number then that the clerk then attaches to this?
Yes.
So do you have that resolution number?
Yep.
It would be Resolution 727.
Commissioner Malloy?
So that's with the understanding, though, that the language could change. We could still change that paragraph if necessary.
Yes, as I said when I first introduced this, it's very regretful that we didn't have this base covered before it came out of committee, but I really feel strongly that we should not be interrupting the timeline for getting it approved. So that's why we're handling it here instead of in policy committee.
Dr. Peluso? Were you done, Commissioner Malloy? Okay, sorry.
So, and I hear everyone's thoughts. I mean, is there a way, I believe there's some agreement that there should be some review of the policy, right? And how that report looks and when it comes seems to be some discussion that needs to still occur. I believe, if anything, if we can get some agreement that, you know, the review and the reporting is an important part of this policy, then we could potentially work out what that reporting structure or date looks like and in terms of time. And I think that may get us to potentially a better yes today than, you know, agreeing on a date and how it's reported and all that.
Okay.
Can I add, excuse me, President.
Go ahead.
Just for clarity, so one of the reasons I believe Commissioner Powell's asking for this here is so that the policy can continue on the readings instead of coming out of the process and starting all over as she would normally do. So by including this, you'll still go to second reading in June and so forth in the policy process. There'll be time for more conversation. if
Right,
needed.
and the board will have an opportunity to amend again or not adopt, or, you know, so every option is still there for the commissioners.
All right. So are we all clear on that? And the resolution is 720?
It would be 727.
727. So all those, was there a second to that?
There was, it was Commissioner
Yeah.
Patterson.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? And let me just say, I think, you know, I'm appreciative of the conversation. And, you know, we're all always not going to agree on the first round, but as we talk more and more about it and get understanding, you know, that helps us to get to yes, or even to no, but we would certainly have had some thorough discussion. So thank you, Commissioner Powell, I appreciate that.
And I thank everyone for their active participation.
All right, so
Survey.
I think that's it. And so we've got the board survey to complete. Is there a motion?
Motion.
To adjourn?
Second.
Motion.
One
All
second.
right, who did the second?
President.
Did you talk about 55220, the student publication?
I covered it, the other two, before we started the hard one.
It was on the second readings, council.
I thought you had to get out of here.
You know, we could do it again.
Motion.
If you want to stay, we could go back to it.
Second.
Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And if you want, be so kind as to complete your board survey, that would be great.
You was getting death stares from everybody. You better.